Hello! I have something very cool to show you today. So, a survival-friendly teleporter that allows you to return to your home whenever you wish, and it also allows you to travel back and forth from two locations. The first method is how to return home instantly in the wild at any time you wish. So the way this works is you want to position yourself in a nether portal like this, and when you're about to teleport, you want to throw an ender pearl, and you'll go to the nether. So then you're going to proceed to this portal over here, and I will explain the reasoning behind all this in a few minutes. So we're going to go into this portal, and we will end up in the wilderness. There's absolutely nothing here, obviously, because it's a super flat world, but the sun is setting and we want to return home, otherwise we'll be in trouble. So how do we do that? Well, with wireless redstone. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at this glass pane, then we're going to look at this glass pane, then we're going to look at this glass pane, then at this glass pane, and again, and we should be teleported back home. So the second method requires a bit of preparation beforehand, but once it's up and running, you can basically teleport back and forth from two locations, which is really useful. So first off, I want to show you my location, specifically the Z coordinate, so minus 5,303. That's where I am in the world. So to start this whole thing up, it's a similar process to the first one. So we have to pop into the portal and fire. Now, once we're actually into the nether, what we want to do is take an item and throw it back into the portal. A dirt block will do. Now, I'm going to cheat here a little bit because this is a video. We don't have a day to do this whole thing. But I'm actually going to teleport back to the other portals, which are about 5,000 blocks away. So here I go. Okay. It may seem a little bit redundant, but this is a video demonstration. So this is actually going to take us back to the home, okay? And once we're there, what we can do is we can actually teleport back to the other base instantly. This time we don't have to walk or anything, or use any cheaty command blocks. So the way you do it is you just press this button once, and you press it again, and you press it one last time. Then you look up, and you want to fire an ender pearl, and hopefully, yep, there we go, actually worked. And we're back here. Now, the base over there was at 5,000 blocks away, and if we want to, we can teleport back there yet again. So, press this once, press it twice, and press it 3 times. Or 2 times, sometimes it varies. And as you can see, we are back at the home. This is actually based off the same idea by a guy named Cubfan, who a couple weeks ago showed a video on the exact same thing. The issue with Cubfans was that it was not very survival friendly. And the reason it wasn't survival friendly was because you needed to load all of the chunks manually between point A and point B. Now, if you're trying to travel 5,000 blocks like I am here, that's going to be a hell of a lot of resources to collect, and it's just impractical for survival. So my method actually removes the need to load all the chunks between point A and point B. And how we do that? Wireless redstone. So here we are at the spawn chunks of the world. The spawn chunks are constantly loaded, and there are 2 kinds of loaded. We have the entity processing loaded, and we have the redstone processing loaded. So the green ones are the entity processing loaded, and the grey ones are the redstone processing loaded. The aim here is to wirelessly convert a redstone chunk into an entity chunk. Why do we want to do this exactly? Well, you'll find that my house is located in a redstone chunk. To convert a redstone chunk into an entity chunk, what you need is a 5x5 grid of loaded redstone chunks. If you do this, the central chunk of this 5x5 grid will convert into an entity processing chunk. So, the difference there is that entity processing chunks can process entities, whereas redstone chunks can only process redstone. So the idea here is basically I throw the ender pearl into the air, and whilst it's in the air, I travel to the nether. Once I've travelled to the nether, because this is a redstone chunk and not an entity processing chunk, it can't process the ender pearl, which is an entity. But if it was an entity processing chunk, it could process it. What we're using here is the wireless survival redstone trick. I actually did a video on this the other day, but Codecrafted actually improved it, so I'm using his design. So basically how it works is there's a bit of a bug involving panes and bars. So depending on which version of the hitbox you're looking at, all of the glass panes in the world will actually update to the one you're looking at. Using this, we can actually create a form of wireless redstone. So depending on the hitbox that's being used, it pushes the minecart up or it doesn't push the minecart up, and this can be translated into a redstone signal. Then it goes through all this complicated stuff and ends up on this wire here. What this wire does is loads these 5 red chunks. These chunks aren't spawn chunks, they're just regular chunks. But if you listen to what I said earlier, a 5x5 chunk, a 5x5 grid of redstone processing chunks will produce 1 entity processing chunk. By loading these 5 red chunks, we can convert this chunk over here, the one with the house, into an entity processing chunk because there's a 5x5 grid of loaded redstone chunks. What that means is when we leave the house, the portal, this is a redstone processing chunk. However, when we're far away, out in the wild, and we use this pane trick to activate this device remotely, what it will do is it will activate this chunk as an entity processing chunk. And what that will do is it will allow the ender pearl to continue being processed and allowed it to fall down into the house and teleport us back. That's all fine and well, but the second teleportation zone couldn't possibly be taking advantage of spawn chunks because it's too far away from them. So what do we have to do here? Well, we have to use fake spawn chunks. And to create fake spawn chunks, all you need is 1 portal. So basically, when you're in the nether and you throw an item or an entity, any entity gets thrown through a portal, the chunks in the overworld around the portal will become fake spawn chunks for a while. So these chunks are actually bigger in area than the real spawn chunks. So it's actually a 17 by 17 grid as opposed to a 16 by 16 grid as of the regular spawn chunks. So using this, we can create these temporary spawn chunks, and this is how the second teleportation zone works. So when we go through the nether, so go into the nether, once we've thrown the ender pearl here, we throw an item through the portal in the nether, and that will load these chunks. We then leave by a different portal, and these chunks will actually remain loaded due to a bug. Like this, we can teleport back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to our heart's desire. And we're not limited by distance. Distance doesn't matter in this case because there's no route between the 2 points. They're completely separate, so it doesn't matter how far apart they are. This is absolutely fantastic for survival